listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Okay, it's time to get tapped in.
Hello, hello, hello. And if you hear my voice, you know it's time to get tapped in. And I am one of your hosts, ZaKiya
and I'm Leonard Jones.
Leonard and I come to you from the Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County, where heroes were case. Leonard, who do we have with us today?
Well, today we have Greene, a preparedness coordinator with Buncombe County's Health and Human Services, that'll be here to give us some information, especially as we come upon the year anniversary of when Tropical Storm Helene hit the area, and just how we can be prepared as we move into the winter months, and just be prepared any time of the year. So thanks for being here today. Nathan, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Nathan Greene. Like you said, I'm the Public Health Preparedness Coordinator for Buncombe County. I've been in emergency services for the last 30 years, and then recently moved over to public health during COVID-19 and been there ever since.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. So let's get to it. Preparedness. We hear that word and we do so many things to prepare, but when you say preparedness, what does that mean?
I think preparedness for me means knowing what the risks are, knowing what the threats are here in our area, and knowing your capabilities and any special needs that you may have as an individual to get through, the threat and the inconveniences that we face during disasters or emergencies or things such as that.
Oh yeah, and we talk about the things that you need. What are some top things that we need when we say, okay, I am preparing for bad weather? What are the top things that we need?
Well, I think you start off with the basic needs. You need food, you need clothing, you need shelter. Those kinds of things, and then we move down to any special needs that you may have. That may be medication, that may be comforting devices. It could mean things that help you be mobile, and other things like that. And those are those special considerations that I think that go a long way in keeping you as comfortable as you can be during an event or an emergency or something such as that.
So around preparedness, as we say, what are some of the key things, especially being here in Buncombe County and kind of in this mountainous region, what are some things that we as new residents here and either natives of the area, what are some of the things they would need to have in their preparedness bag? As you sort of mentioned a few things, but what are some other things they can be prepared for?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the emergency or the threat or whatever that could happen, but some other things are like a weather radio, flashlights, some sort of communication device, but most importantly probably is your personal documents and phone numbers to the friends and family networks that can be there, that you may rely on to help you out in times of need.
Well, anything, just as I mentioned earlier, we coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Tropical Storm Helene. Is there anything we kind of learned when you talk about communication? The first thing that popped in my mind as going through the storm myself is that communication dropped. Even when we became so dependent upon like digital and our cell phones as a way to communicate, and then we found out that dropped, and then you only had certain locations, so you had to actually get to a location to even tap into those communications. What are some of the things? What was learned from that experience?
Well, I think the biggest thing we learned is how fragile it is.
Yeah.
And we rely on these things every day, and we kind of get complacent as we go along, and with any threat, any kind of mechanical or electronic or anything like that, it may not hold up. I mean, it may require power, it may require things such as a radio tower. What if it gets blowed down or that sort of thing? So I think most importantly though, because it is so fragile, building that network of support is really important in that face-to-face conversation, and knowing, who's going to come and check on me, or who do I need to go check on to make sure, everything's okay and that sort of thing. But, I think in preparedness, certainly those things make it easier, but we also need to really get back to the basics of communication.
And you talk about back to the basics. I even just speak from my own personal experience. The idea of an antenna for your TV, because when you buy TVs now, they don't give you antennas or anything. And luckily, we were able to find one pretty much probably at a Dollar General. And it's one of those things that I don't know if my sons, which were born in 2002, that they would even know to go get an antenna. And that's how we were able to actually tap into just the news to even know what was going on. So I strongly recommend people that, especially if all these newer TVs don't come with an antenna, and just having that cord to attach to it really helped us stay. And that's another thing, learning from is isolation. Like, you don't really, we're so connected and have access to things that once that all cut off, it's like, oh God, I don't know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that's a great idea. The antenna, we don't have analog anymore, so we've got to get the digital antennas to hook up and everything. But then also, some folks may need, assistive devices if they're hard of hearing and that sort of thing. And so a radio doesn't really come in handy. So having that antenna with your TV, at least you can read the ribbons that scroll across and stay informed.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is that a lot of community connections were made during Helene, but now those community connections are very slim. They're not as strong as they were. Actually, I've had neighbors to move away. I think I've lost a set of 3 families on our street. So how would you encourage folks in their neighborhoods to prepare? Because we know that there was a lot of cooking together and sharing of resources. How would you encourage that?
I would encourage it by getting involved and, just going out and meeting your neighbors, or even, just having a day where, your neighbors come by and maybe have a cookout or something like that, just where you can get to know your neighbors. We're coming up on the holiday season very soon, and it's a great time to get with neighbors and share information and let them know what your needs are, and you may learn what their needs are, and help each other out.
What would be some recommendations? Again, I do a lot of TV watching. So, of course, we just coming up on 20 years since Katrina. And one of the biggest things came with a lot of disaster were the elderly. A lot of that they found that perished in that storm down in New Orleans. What's some recommendations for, we know that the elderly population or aging population here in this area is at a high number. How can we as a community support those individuals?
I think as a community, we can, there's certain registries out there that we can build for those elderly. Also, folks can, get with their within their church, within those types of community spaces, and share ideas and fellowship with each other, and really, I guess, be more resilient together.
Yeah. Because that has been one of the main calls coming out of Tropical Storm Helene. It was like, how can we build some kind of resiliency hubs that's more localized in the community? So,
because a lot of people were stopping downtown at the 40 Cox building when we were first headquarters there, using internet service, or downtown just where the hotels were, because even though Buncombe County was hit, that downtown area was not damaged as much, and so they did have some services. Maybe not everything is water and things of that nature. Speaking of water, how much water would you tell people to store if in their house if there was going to be a time where water was going to be cut off again?
Well, I'd certainly start with the 72-hour rule. Our water consumption is a little different for everybody, but one way to start is fill a bathtub. Fill your bathtub. That way you've got water to flush with, non-potable, that sort of thing, and then stock up on some water that's in a non-perishable container, and keep that on hand for drinking, cooking, and those sorts of things.
And I know somebody's, I asked this question, can water go old? Like, can it go bad? Like,
I think water can probably, yes, spoil if it has the right environment, but it's typically the container that it's in.
okay.
And so that's the important piece
Yeah, because
when
my
you're
aunt,
storing water.
my aunt told me do not throw water out, just write toilet on it.
That's exactly right. And we take for granted how much water we actually flush down the drain, and it takes a lot. And that what we've seen in the last emergency with Helene, and then the water outage back a couple Christmases ago, people didn't realize how much water that they needed just to flush or use non-potable, non-drinking, and that sort of thing. And that really opened our eyes.
That was a rough time.
In emergency services, and as to, we need to think about this. We need to have more non-potable water than we do potable water.
Yeah, very true. It's even one of those things, like just being in the house, you don't realize how many times you engage with water until it's limited.
Right.
When you sparingly putting it on you, like, this is just all I need to wash my hands.
So I think fill the bathtub, get about 3 days worth of bottled water or boxed water or water that you can drink, and I think that.
And that's one thing, like, coming out of Helene, was that resources were given to help people collect water and store water, and hopefully a lot of people have held on to some of those containers, because it's great to have, and then it's like, the water back on. It's like, don't throw all that stuff away.
It's really important too to know what you're capable of. You don't want to get a big container and fill it full of water if you can't use it, or can't move it, and so have some small buckets around, gallon buckets around to dip.
To transport, And I tell people all the time, like, even if you have one of those big containers and maybe it catches rainwater, we don't know what it does. You can always use it to water your yard, and so that you can always so it's still always circulating and moving through. But again, you don't realize how much you use anything until it's not there. Like I was telling Leonard, I've been without lights. That's fine. I've been without water. I had never been without lights and water.
Right.
And that was very stressful. And so batteries, I was like, I know I haven't used these batteries. Why are they not working? So how do you make sure that your batteries are still good, that they're not defected, are dollar store batteries just as good as the name brand store or batteries? Like, give us some energy answers.
Well, I think as far as batteries and with anything that you put together, you need to inspect it. At least once a year. Batteries come with an expiration date on it. If they're expired, throw them out. Even if they do work, they're not going to work very long. Test your flashlight and that sort of thing at least once a year to make sure everything's ready when you need it.
Yeah, well, we used to have chargeable flashlights, and I think they just lost the charge. But they were amazing until the lights went out and you use it up. But you could change batteries if it's but I was just
you can't recharge it if the power's out.
Exactly. So it defeats the purpose.
That's right.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to set up like an annual evaluation of your preparedness.
Yeah.
And I think that's all part of the plan. I think the biggest thing for people to do is create that plan and know how to use it, know where to go. in an evacuation or if you might need sheltering, you might, that sort of thing. Have those items ready so that you can get out the door.
Yeah.
And be comfortable. And we always, like I said, it's a 72-hour rule. That's what you need to stay, prepared.
Yeah, and my 72-hour rule stashes a small barbecue grill, one of the little ones, coals, some type of like a pot and water that we have stored, because you can make ramen noodles and stuff like that on your grill while you're grilling some other stuff. My husband made like a whole thing of grits on we ate well, but you have to get campfire cooking creative. And when you don't have electricity and all those things, so we have those things for food. We have, a couple of can openers, scissors, because you will not realize how much you need scissors until you're in that situation.
Right.
Some type of plastic, pretty much the size of a queen sheet, and we kept it folded, and also a queen flat, not the fitted. If you just keep one of those, you'll never know what you'll need it for. The dog was having issues and stuff, and getting her. We had to makeshift things, but just so we had to get so creative, because we were without all these things, but none of us, we didn't think about water for washing our hands and cooking, but also brushing our teeth and washing our bodies, and then it was for the toilet. And so, that 72-hour rule, you're thinking, okay, 72 hours, I have medicine for 72 hours and all this. I ran out of medicine. And so I started to panic, and he told me to get out of town, right? He told me to leave immediately. And I was able to get my medicine and get back on it. But the thing is, in this moment, that moment last year, we went beyond the 72 hours.
We did.
Yes. And so when that happens, what is the first steps we need to do?
Well, probably the first steps we need to do is be informed. We need to be informed about what's available out there and that sort of thing. Be patient. Obviously, it takes time to stand things up. And for us, it was... we were cut off during Helene, so it took a little bit longer to get those commodities and those things here to get set up. But I think you go back to relying on friends and family and neighbors and that sort of thing, and that network you have within your neighborhoods to get through those periods to where when things get stood up or when you can finally get out to somewhere to pick those things up.
I like that you mentioned to be informed. So it's another one of those things that's, again, watching TV and some of the lessons learned. It's one of those things to heed the warnings. And it's also one of those things to keep in mind that in the downtime, to pick up things to put in your kind of preparedness kit for events, and not waking almost like everybody running on the store right before the storm comes. How about you go right now when nobody's thinking about it, just so that you can have a few of those things. So that's one of my recommendations. And also the importance of cash. We also learned this time that when digital broke down, the idea of having some cash on you helped you out in these storms as well.
Always a good idea to have cash on hand.
Yeah, and we collect our change. And so we were riding around with a large, it's beyond a gallon. It's the grape juice that you get. You would call it communion juice. It's the container's like this big, and it was more than half full of just change. And so we're in the car counting out all this change. But we were lucky enough to have, because there was no cash apping. There was none of that.
No.
And so, and you just don't realize how important those things are. Cash, having snacks in your car, a blanket in your car, things of that nature. What are some things that you do to prepare, Nathan?
For me, it's a little bit easy. I always Of course, I come from emergency services, so I always have a kit ready to go for work. But some of the things I do to prepare is I meet with my family, and we talk about it. And my daughter, she's really into that sort of thing, and she's probably the more responsible one in the bunch. So anyway, we always have a go kit. We're 72 hours with like the items that we talked about: blankets, batteries, knives, scissors, anything, can openers, and manual can openers, those sorts of things. And then we have a meeting place, because it doesn't have to be a disaster. It could be something like a house fire or something like that. And so having a meeting place and that where we can reunite and get together and that sort of thing is really important as well.
Well, we are winding down, and I just want you to take a moment and give our audience what you feel is extremely important for them to know right now.
Well, I think Leonard said it best. He said, what do we do beforehand? It's those blue sky days. It's the days that we don't need it, because when we do need it, we don't want to have to be searching for it. So just be ready. Know what the hazards are. We, here in Western North Carolina, we don't go through disasters a whole lot, but we have winter storms, we have power outages, we have water outages, we have thunderstorms, and those sorts of things. And know what you're going to need for those times. And most importantly, if you do have medical issues and that sort of thing, have those on hand. And like I said, the documentation, those things that you might need to recover after the emergency's over, have those on hand.
It's also one of the things I think about where we were flush with a lot of resources in the aftermath. Because I took it a thing, like I felt like everybody's basement was like a little mini distribution place because that stuff was given away for free. It's like, let me just pick this up. So it's one of those things that even knowing just your capacity to take in stuff and not like overly hoard, as people call it, but just knowing, I think it's one of those things that as we come up on a year, think about some of the things that you wish you had at that moment to, as you say, in the blue sky days, that you're ready in case anything happens. Because just like you say, we are going into the winter months. And there's also stuff you got to do to prepare your house. We're about to get into the period of leaves falling, so you got extra debris in your gutters and all those fine things that come with owning a home.
Clear off your steps.
Clear off your steps. Don't create any trip hazards. Get that debris and that vegetative debris away from the house. That sort of thing, and go a long way. It's always take a minute to look back at those lessons learned and build on it.
And like managing your trees.
Yes.
That became another thing. Like it's nice to have the shade, but it's like, is that too much leaning over my house?
Yeah. And if you, the thing is, you can, the shade, the tree limb is like over the roof. They say trim it back. But the tree is like straight up, and if there are no limbs that look dangerous, they tell you you're okay. Can you tell us, before we go, a little bit about Code Red and how people can become a part of that system?
Yeah, that's the platform that Buncombe County uses to reach the residents. It's called BC Alerts. You can go to Buncombe County. Is it BuncombeNC.gov now?
Yeah.
And sign up for those Code Red alerts.
Yeah. And the Code Red alerts are very important because we can, sometimes we have the capabilities, if it's particularly in your area, you can get notifications as well if it's countywide. So that's a great resource for people to stay in tune of things that's happening.
And also they give out alerts if there's food or anything like that that's being served in an emergency time like that.
Yeah.
But Nathan, we thank you so much. We're gonna start letting everybody start wrapping up. Leonard?
As Nathan had mentioned, we always encourage residents, if you want to learn more about just what resources are available out to you, you always can go to www.buncombenc.gov. As we mentioned a few months ago, we did switch over, and so if you still go to .org, it'll route you right now, but we just want to get it out there that the new website is www.buncombenc.gov.
As we leave you all, in the famous words of Disney lion SCAR, be prepared. We must always figure out, the best things for our family. I know myself, I take a lot of medications beyond over-the-counter stuff. Make sure you have extra medications put up, and you can switch them out, take them before they expire, and redo them. But make it a habit. Make it something that you do, like when the seasons change. When you create a schedule and you stick to it, you're safer. You teach your children great habits, and you may be teaching your parents great habits. But at the end of the day, practice what can save us and also help us and our neighbors, because we know we've been there before. So if you have any questions, you can go on to Buncombe NC, BuncombeNC.gov.
Yeah.
BuncombeNC.gov. And, get that information. Don't, you can't say you don't know if you haven't looked. So here's your opportunity to look and be prepared. And that's all for us today. You've been tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.